You may have noticed in the last video that one of the two approaches I used to program drums made more sense to you. Each of us perceives music in a different way and wraps our head around concepts like time passing or low to high frequencies in a different way. So I'm going to continue to take this dual approach of how to make music in Ableton Live. One that's a bit more left-brained, creative, musical, if you will, and the other that's slightly more mathematical, technical, right-brained. And neither one is better than the other, and both will inevitably lead you to the exact same place. For those of you who are using your computer's keyboard in order to program MIDI, I want you to watch the video that's in the link below the player in order to visualize how it's laid out on that surface. Now that we've looked at how to program MIDI drums, we're going to expand our vocabulary to include melodies, harmonies, and other textures. Continuing on from the live set we were working on with the 3 MIDI drum clips, we're going to select the next MIDI channel by clicking on the track's title, which in this case is 2 MIDI. And again, the channel needs to be highlighted so that you do know that it actually is selected. And then next we're going to head back over to Live's browser here and then click on Sounds. You'll see multiple categories such as strings, voices, basses, etc. that can all be unfolded by clicking on the triangle to the left of their title. And you can kind of click through the different sounds once you're inside of a folder and listen to the previews. Certain sounds are going to be monophonic, meaning that you can only play one note at a time. Others are polyphonic, meaning that you can play many notes at one time. And some sounds don't really even have pitches or note values at all, like many of the sounds you'll find in the effects category. For the purpose of showing you how it's done, I'm going to select the grand piano sound from the piano and keys category. That's a polyphonic sound that should be pretty familiar to everybody. Again, I'm going to select it by clicking and dragging it on to the title of 2 MIDI here. So you'll see the track's title automatically switch to grand piano. We're record enabled, and here is the actual virtual instrument below in detail view. Now when you press the keys on your controller or your computer keyboard, we should also be hearing the sound now. So we've got that ready to rock. We'll begin by learning how to play a part into a clip in session view. This time I'm going to let Live quantize as I record. So this is going to kind of fix things as I'm doing it, but it'll also take out any, pocket or distinctive character if that's the type of player that you are. So keep that in mind when you're deciding whether you want things to be quantized in the future. And I'm going to turn the record quantization function on by clicking on the edit menu, going down to record quantization here. And it's asking me for a subdivision to quantize to. And unless you know for sure what any of these subdivisions mean, I suggest just clicking on the 16th note quantization for now. Once you're ready to roll and have come up with a melodic idea, we're going to turn the metronome on here. Begin playback by pressing spacebar. And we can click any of these, drum clips so that we can be playing along to this. I'll play along to the second clip here. And when I'm ready, I'm just going to launch one of these clips that's ready to record. And you can see here, time passing, ready to go. So I'm just going to and then when I'm done, I'm going to again press the play icon here, and it'll immediately begin playback. So again, we have this dead space kind of at the beginning and the end, and not of any use to me, so I'm going to eliminate it by moving the start and stop markers to these whole numbers and just isolating the area that I wanted. So when we zoom in here, and also we can zoom in on the vertical side over here. If I click and drag to the right, it's going to expand these notes. So quickly to play back, we can hear how the quantization worked as I went. So the timing is already pretty on. We've got some slight variations in the velocities. You can go through here and edit these things. But in addition to editing the timing or the loudness of any of these MIDI events, we can also adjust the pitch. I can do that just by grabbing a note and moving it down to a different note value. So here I'll we'll play back and you can hear the difference here. So hopefully that illustrates enough to you the way we can adjust pitch here when we're programming melodic material. So the other way to program a melodic part is to manually click the notes into the clip, similar to what we did when we were programming drums. So I'm just going to choose the next empty cell here and double click in this area to create an empty clip. So we've got this default 1 bar here. And I'm just going to launch it here so it'll immediately start to loop, although there's no information inside of this clip yet. From here, I'm just going to click in some events. So you can see it's a bit of trial and error, and I can go in, I can add things, I can shorten them, I can adjust the velocities. And this can take a lot of trial and error, and it's something that can really exhaust your ears quickly as well, but this is a completely valid way to get your ideas down, especially if you don't really have any experience playing an instrument or a keyboard. But you can come up with some really interesting ideas this way, almost by accident in some respects. So at this point, we've got a simple drum pattern and our first piece of melodic content captured into clips in session view. And from here, we can build our ideas and just continue to let our creative juices flow. To add another MIDI track, we can go up to Create, Insert MIDI Track, and you'll see here is 3 MIDI. It's given us another MIDI track, and it's ready for a new sound to be dropped onto it, more ideas to be fleshed out. So I want you to continue to create, add MIDI tracks, add elements. But as you do that, I want you to keep in mind that each of these clips or musical ideas are the building blocks of what will eventually be the final version of your composition. So be creative, don't be afraid to explore, and just let it flow.